the Battlefield 3 beta has very similar problems, or in my eyes problems, that some previous Call of Duty titles have had. One of the most strong ones is that the maps are designed in such a way that the attackers, and especially in Battlefield 3, you call them attackers, but the attackers have to go down narrow paths to get from one objective to the next objective, whereas those paths, the defenders can defend those paths from positions of advantage, behind cover, from so many different angles and heights, that it's very hard to consistently get through areas without dying. One of the most strong examples of this is the two last bomb sites, or the two last sets of bombs that you have to plant in Battlefield 3 in the first map that was available on PC. Not sure if the second map was even available on console. So those two bomb plants. First one is after you've planted the first set of bombs in the train area, which is sort of in the middle between the start and the end, and after you've planted those, you have to get up. You have 3 different sets of stairs that you can go up to get to the final bomb plants in the train station area. And all of these, the ways up there are very easily covered by the defending side because they have such a great amount of cover they can sit behind and overwatch these areas where the attackers have to come up, that it's almost impossible to, when you are an attacker, to check all of those areas and shoot guys that are sitting there. Because after you've covered the first 4 places where you know that enemies might be at, they might have already spawned back in and be back at that first or any one of those areas that you've checked, and you've run out of cover and suddenly, oh, you're dead because there was another guy camping there. And we've seen a similar map design in previous Call of Duty titles. In particular, Modern Warfare 2 tended to do this very much as well. The strongest example of this is Favela, which, especially on domination, because you have to capture B, and at the start of the game it's not really a problem because not many people are camping, but especially in the middle of the game when you're trying to retake B, it becomes a big problem. And there's 3 ways of getting from one side of that map to the other. On the left side is a street, which has cars all over it, but that street is a very unwise way to get from bottom to top if you know that there's going to be guys at the top, because on the either side there's buildings in which you can sit in and defend and cover that walkway. And in the middle walkway, there's guys everywhere. There's close quarters, shotguns, there's rooftops. There's not really a good chance that you can get through there without relying on chance. On the right, that's the best way of getting from one side to the other because there's not so much cover. There's buildings, rooftops to look over that area, but it's not too bad. But yeah, the point is that in Modern Warfare 2 we've had seen a similar map design, but luckily in Modern Warfare 3 they're saying that they're getting rid of that kind of map design. Why DICE didn't listen to this, why they didn't realize that people didn't like this kind of map design, it's beyond me, because it was clear that the press or the media has very much focused on this as being something that's wrong with Call of Duty, that they're fixing it in the future, but DICE just didn't care and made maps that are similar to the way that Modern Warfare 2 made maps. Another problem that Battlefield 3 has, and previous Call of Duty titles have had, is that it's very hard to balance guns that kill incredibly fast. In Modern Warfare 2, this wasn't such, gun balance isn't such a big problem because there were so many other random factors affecting whether or not you lose or win a gunfight that it didn't really matter that some guns were easier to use than others. Especially in Black Ops, some guns stand out over other guns because, the minuscule balancing issues have meant that this one gun is better in most areas than other guns. And one of the most obvious examples of that is the FAMAS on the console and the uh, submachine gun, the AK-74U on the PC. And in Battlefield 3, in the beta, again, the lethality of the guns was so high that you would just die instantly. And some guns, like the snipers, they would kill you instantly, and there's nothing you can do against those guns. And also, if you have very lethal guns, if you aren't moving as much and you have the aim, you aiming first, then you almost always win the gunfight. On PC, the way that Battlefield 3 was coded wasn't good enough for the guns to be that lethal, because the connection issues, that sometimes you had a very good ping and people died instantly, whereas other times you put entire clips into people and then suddenly get shot as if you hadn't shot the guy. And if obviously it's still a problem if the guns weren't as lethal, but it would be less noticeable. Like, the balancing issues would be less noticeable, connectivity issues would be less noticeable, campers wouldn't have such a high advantage if the lethality, like how much damage a gun does, is reduced. Because the faster the game type, the stronger it's... No, not the game type. The faster the game, the stronger, like, all the flaws of the game come out, because there's so many, the fast pace means that if something goes wrong and it's the game's fault, then you instantly notice it, and you notice it over and over and over because it keeps on happening. The Black Ops on PC is taking a much different path than it has on the console.